Hello, folks. Phil Gallagher of ThrabenU here, joined by the one and only Bryant Cook, Storm Master. How you doing today, Bryant?
I'm great, Phil. Really happy to be here on Thraben University.
All right. In case you aren't familiar with Bryant's content, he does content under the moniker TheEpicStorm, and he's perhaps famous for his work on TES and Legacy. But this deck has kind of become one of his pet projects over the last few months. Bryant, will you talk us through Cycle Storm here?
Yeah, so Cycle Storm is a graveyard-based combo deck in Pauper based around two primary cards, Songs of the Damned and then Reaping the Graves. Songs of the Damned is a super ritual. It costs one black and adds a black for each creature card in your graveyard. Well, that's pretty good with the 20 plus cycling creatures in our deck. So you'll notice a lot of the creatures in this deck all have cycling. So they're essentially your built-in draw engine. Remember that whole Reaping the Graves card I talked about? Well, that comes in pretty handy here. So think of this as a Wheel of Fortune, so to speak, where time you return a creature, that's a draw spell. So think of it as a draw 5, a draw 6, a draw 7, and you use Songs of the Damned as the card, is the mana to get through these cards. And eventually, how we win the game is Draneth's Stinger enters the battlefield as a win condition. We don't have Grape Shot in this format anymore, so a different one in a red card will have to win the game. And you might be thinking, well, what if they kill the Draneth Stinger? You can cycle with that removal on the stack and win the game.
Yeah, and you also do have a couple copies of Exhume to bring it back. But
We
that's not
do.
the only reason why this is in here, right?
Correct. Repository Scob from Crimson Vow. So this card's pretty similar to our Chaomancer in the fact that it returns an instant or sorcery, but the big difference is that it has exploit, which means that you can sacrifice it to itself to put it back to the graveyard. So that means you can return it with Exhume, like Phil mentioned, or Reaping the Graves for tons of value. The fact that it kills itself is just phenomenal here.
Yeah, that's absolutely a disgusting interaction. Um, so do you ever just like exhume something stupid like a striped Riverwinder and try to win the game that way?
All the time. That's actually a really good strategy that we do against the fairies decks quite often because they're pretty cold to a giant 5/5 hexproof. Also, I like to call this creature Horror of the Broken Beatdown, but its real name is Horror of the Broken Lands. I've killed plenty of people by attacking for 4 and then going, oops, 20.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. If the board is empty, that can get in for a lot of damage. So
Definitely.
one of the things that I notice in looking at this deck is that like this deck has a whopping 12 lands, and that's pretty low. How do you find like your mana in this deck?
It's pretty good. I know the 12 seems low, but even the other combo decks in this format that aren't cycling decks only run somewhere between 13 and 14. We do have 4 copies of Lotus Petal as well, and against control decks, we do have that extra mountain in the sideboard, so we can side up to 13.
All right, fantastic. Do you want to briefly talk about anything in the sideboard that's particularly interesting?
Will do. So recently, this is a list that I've been testing behind the scenes in secret. So I've had this idea for a while, but I've been running green, and I decided to cut the green for 2 additional copies of Exhume. So that way, against the fairies decks, we can go full sideboard reanimator package with Striped Riverwinder and then Mirrorshell Crab. But the reason that Exhume is good and taking the green slot is against decks like Burn, you can board out Striped Riverwinders for those Exhumes and just plan to bring back your Draneth Healers and then gain life with Draneth Healer or even Dihada's Ploy. So that way you're still gaining life, you're just gaining it in a different manner.
All right, fantastic. I'm excited to give this a go. I haven't done too much Pauper combo. I've done a lot of control-y and mid-rangey things. All right, final thought for the intro. Is this the best version of Storm, or is the Galvanic Relay stuff better? I know they're kind of apples and
Uh,
oranges, but I'm sure the people want to know.
oh, I hate this question. Uh, if I'm being completely honest, this is my favorite Storm deck, but the Relay Storm deck might be better. And I will say this. The Relay Storm deck plays more like Storm. It's the more of the traditional ritual into payoff, where this deck it's more masterful. There's a lot more smaller interactions. And Phil, I'm going to talk just for a second here. I'm sorry. But what I love about this deck, Phil, is every single micro decision in this deck hands out. Like you're making tons of decisions that impact the game, and there's a lot of play to it. So you're really rewarded for your craft.
I mean, that's what I love to hear as like a really invested player. Like if I get better at the deck and the deck gets better with me, I love hearing that. All right. Any final thoughts, Bryant, before we kind of jump into the league?
Let's hop into round number one.
All right, let's do it. Folks, if you're new here, please consider subscribing to support my content. And if you're a regular, throw me a like before we begin. That's the easiest way to support my content for free. Let's battle. All right, round one, I'm looking at an opening hand that has a single tapped land, but it has Songs of the Damned and Reaping the Graves. What are we thinking, Bryant?
Snap keep.
That was my thought as well. Like,
Sounds phenomenal,
we
Phil.
have like we have both sides of the broken stuff in hand already. Um I don't know that we get to start going on turn 2, but it's like close, right?
Turn two might be a little aggressive, so you're really rewarded for patience sometimes with this deck. And I don't know if you noticed, Phil, our opponent mulliganed all the way down to 4 cards. So
Oh no.
yeah, not
Uh
looking good for the opponent.
what do you think they're just going real deep for like ninjas or something? Oh,
They're the relay deck.
okay.
Okay. So here, what I would do, and we don't have to do this, but I would just cycle for the basic island, and then on their end step, cycle Draneth Healer.
Sounds good.
And the reason we do this is we are a deck with blue cards in it. We talked about Stripe Riverwinder, Repository Scob, but we also have Jihadist Ploy and then a single Mystical Teachings that I've recently added back in for a little bit of extra consistency. And Phil, one of the things I'm hoping to showcase today is that power between Reaping the Graves and Repository Scob.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing that interaction. Um our opponent needs to put together a lot here to kind of like come back. They can do like a ritual into a relay or something like that. Yeah, a Night's Whisper is perfectly reasonable for them.
All right, and then we're gonna cycle Draneth Healer on the end step. Boom, love it.
Sounds good. All right,
And there's our
there's
Scobby
Repository
friend.
Scab. All right. Is it time
What would
or
you
are
do,
we
Phil?
waiting?
What would you do here? Let me ask you that.
I don't really feel like we've cycled enough cards yet.
I would agree. Two is pretty thin. I'd like some more creatures. There's no hard rule, but two is really pushing it, especially when our opponent can't kill us on their turn. So I would just cycle the horror here and see what happens.
Okay, I'm going to ask sort of a weird question. Is there a world where I just dump the horror into play?
I mean, you could, but we don't have any way of like really making it pay off because we don't have any additional cyclers. So I would personally just cycle here.
All right, let's cycle and see where this goes.
Okay.
All right, we've got mana.
Unfortunately, we have to pass the turn though.
Yeah, like that is what it is. You can't just like always have it all.
And one unfortunate thing for our opponent here is that they've drawn double Lotus Petal, but they would have really have liked a second land.
Oh, absolutely. Um, for those of you who haven't been watching very much Pauper content, this experimental synthesizer is absolutely the talk of the town right now. This card is exceptionally strong because you get stuff on enters, on leaves, and there's also sometimes a samurai attached to it as well. Like, that's just an incredibly powerful set of things.
Our opponent here is looking to cast a Deadly Dispute to cash in that additional card advantage with the experimental synthesizer.
Okay, they've just got a Night's Whisper, which is still quite good. All right, and for those of you who don't know it, this is a depletion counter land, so it can be used for 2 mana twice. All right, that's
Good
reasonable.
draw. So, Phil, I hope you've been doing your cardio exercises because with this deck, you do a lot of cycling. Just a heads up.
I see what you did there. All right, now is it go time? So we've got
So,
Healer, Horror, Street Wraith.
our opponent still can't win the game. I would probably just play the Blood Celebrant personally. I'm pretty patient. I don't know if you or any of your watchers have ever watched any of my content, but people a lot of the time when they play these storm decks feel the need or the pressure to always be fast because when you play storm combo, that's what people think of as fast wins, turn one wins, turn two wins. Something I've realized over time is if your opponent's not putting you in check, take your time. The longer you wait, the more likely you are to win the game.
All right.
Beautiful.
Now we're
Let's
probably going,
cycle
right?
our slippery friend.
All right. So cycle that into the graveyard. I assume I can. Do I need to cycle that? Slash, do I
I'd
want
probably
to?
just play it.
Okay. And are we going, or just still
I think
going?
I would go.
Okay. So, do I even want to play this land yet, or do I want to hold it in case I need colors?
It doesn't really matter because you have the Blood Celebrant.
Okay, cool. All right.
But I would definitely cast the Dark Rituals to start off, and then by casting the second Dark Ritual, we enabled Threshold for that Cabal Ritual, so we're pretty free to cast those.
Fantastic.
One of the things to note here is that this Songs of the Damned isn't that impressive yet, so I would just hold it in my hand because we already have enough Storm to return our 4 creatures in graveyard with this Reaping the Graves.
Sounds good. One. Oh,
Oh, you have to target the first one and then let the trigger resolve.
okay.
Um,
So, like, target a
one
healer, then the trigger resolves, and I target the rest.
Yep, and one thing to note is that you never target Street Wraith first because Street Wraith should always be the first creature you return after the trigger.
Okay.
And basically, by returning Street Wraith first, is that you guarantee a free draw. So that means that you're keeping more creatures in the graveyard for Songs of the Damned. And then you have one more that you just have to target.
Oh, okay. Yeah, bonus one. Got it.
All right. So one thing that we do here. Oh, you
Oh,
might want to pause, Phil. Is that you never return, or well, I shouldn't say never, but rarely do you just let them all happen. You want to cycle in between, because by doing that, you're keeping the most number of creatures possible in the graveyard for Songs of the Damned. So you're just maximizing your potential mana at all times.
okay. I understand. All right. So we'll recycle this, and I guess I can go ahead and convert a mana.
hmm Blood Celebrant is one of the most broken cards in Pauper that doesn't get the correct recognition, in my opinion.
All right. So am I going to cycle this?
Always
Okay. All right.
keep the train moving.
Understood. All
I
right.
would hold the Barrymore for now. I usually try to not cycle those unless I really need to. So
Okay.
I'd let the next copy resolve,
Okay.
and then yep.
All right. So I will go ahead and cycle this. All right.
Ooh,
That's
that was
that's what
decent.
we're looking for, right?
So now we want to make these Songs of the Damned make a little bit more mana. So I'd probably cycle the Barrymore, hoping to hit another creature, because every creature you draw at this point, well, third songs is pretty good. Is essentially +2 mana when you had the double songs.
All right. So should I just go ahead and fire one of these off and then reaping the graves again?
Well, let's cast one of them.
All right. Up
And
to
then
7
let's
mana.
convert a blue mana. And now let's play Repository Scob.
Okay.
And then that can get back Songs of the Damned. And now your other songs will you have to exploit. Yep.
Yep. Got it.
Now your other songs will make 6 mana. So
All right. So we want songs here, not reaping the graves.
correct. Because you have a Reaping the Graves in your hand, which means that you can return that Repository Scob.
Okay. Cool.
So I'd
So
probably
I'll
cast one of them here. And it's pretty free to play the Lotus Petal too.
sure.
And then I would target the Repository Scob first,
Okay.
let the trigger resolve, and then target Street Wraith and then the other creatures.
All right. So target Street Wraith, Riverwinder, you, and then the others don't matter. Looking on the same stuff again. All right. Got it.
All right, now
So
let's do
then,
what we practiced.
okay. Cool. So at this point, do I just fire off these songs while there's this many in graveyard, or what's my plan?
Keep cycling. You want to really get the most out of your Songs of the Damned.
Okay, so I don't want to just play this.
Nope, keep cycling.
All
One
right.
of the things about this deck that changed with Repository Scob is you're so unlikely to ever run out of fuel for the stingers later. Um, you're just usually going to have it.
Okay. So do I fire off a songs or just wait?
I'd probably wait.
Okay.
So keep it cycling. Wow, this has
Yeah.
not been a very good reaping. Jeez.
All right, so now I should play one of these.
Correct.
All right, got it. Cycle 1. Okay, Exhume is cool.
All right, and now we're getting to the point where the empty reavings happen. So we get to. I'd probably play the island here, so you don't have to pay another life, and then the lotus petal.
Okay,
But we get to do the cool thing with the exhume here, which is play repository scob, get back reaping the graves.
okay.
So we're going to exploit.
Grab Reaping.
Now we get to exhume, bring back the repository scob, and get back songs of the damned. So it's like a black regrowth.
This is very strange. I don't know that I could have just kind of like figured out all of this, just kind of like picking up the deck and playing it.
Takes a lot of practice. I'm still not as good as I could be.
All right.
And now we return the scob first, paying our mana, and then street wraith, and then the other creatures.
Oh, my opponent concede. Low
I
moto.
think we're experiencing a little bit of lag here. There we go.
Okay. All right. So target
All
Street
right.
Wraith first, then all the others, and
You
from
can just
there.
click on one a lot. I mean, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So let's cycle. Ooh, that was good.
That's a great draw. All right. Are we
Cycle.
ready? Oh, okay.
Yeah. We're not quite there yet, in my opinion.
All right.
That was good.
Recycle this.
Cycle that.
All right.
All right. So I would cycle Stinger and then cast the songs.
Okay.
And now, after you cast the songs, I think we can just let everything return. And then maybe we can start to look at winning the game.
All right. Our stack empties, and most of the rest of those don't do anything. Okay.
Okay, so let's cycle a few more creatures.
Sure.
We're
Nope, not
basically just
that.
going to cycle down to the point where we need to cast Scob again for songs. Ooh, that was good.
I'll just cast this.
So, Phil, most of the time when I win, I draw most of my deck. And by most, I mean like down to the nitty gritty.
Okay.
So, as Phil is cycling here, we're going to cycle this Vantasaur, and let's say we don't hit a cycler here. Well, we do. So the plan would be to repository back the songs, because I think the choke point at this point is mana, despite drawing a bunch of Songs of the Damned. We ran a little thin on creatures. So now we're going to Scob, get back songs, Exhume, get back songs, Reaping, and then we're finally going to win the game.
Okay. So I exploit this. Go ahead and pick up songs. And I can just cast that now, right? Now is the optimal time.
Correct.
All right, cool. Then exhume. Get back. Gob. Sacrifice it. And songs one more time, right?
Correct. They always talk about Cabal Ritual making all the skulls. I don't know if they've seen Songs of the Damned.
Yeah, this is pretty disgusting. All right. So
All
now
right.
I reaping the graves and get it all.
Correct.
All
Now,
right.
this time we're just going to return everything. Don't worry about responding to your own reaping the graves. We're just going to win the game. Oh, I told you before we started that your clicks per minute have to be high if you're going to play Cycle Storm.
All right. I think that's all of them. A little hard to tell, but I think I got them.
We'll be fine. We have another reaping the graves. But as you can see, there's a lot of micro decisions that really go into every single game when you play this deck to maximize the amount of mana you can make with Songs of the Damned and the number of cards you see off of Reaping the Graves.
All right. So now can
All
I
right.
make a red mana and do this?
You can play all the stingers that your heart wants, Phil. Also, you don't have to listen to me. You can play these cards whenever you want. You're the boss.
Yeah, but you're the one who knows what you're doing.
You are the Bruce Springsteen of this video, Phil.
All right. So now I just like cycle these things, and each time I do, it pings my opponent.
Correct.
All
And you
right.
can even auto yield to the draw triggers if you want. It's just worth noting that we have 20 cards in the library, which is pretty good. But sometimes you get a little bit low and you don't want to auto yield to the draw trigger because you can leave those draws on the stack so that way you never duck yourself.
Makes sense.
It's also worth noting that we are at 3 life. So those street rates can be a little bit dangerous if you end up playing a little sloppy. Also, Phil, want to know what's really fun? Winning with Ash Barons or Baronmore.
All right, very well. We will win with Baronmore. All right, we have killed our opponent with a land. All right, so I imagine our duress effects are pretty reasonable.
They are. So this is something that I've recently changed where I added in 2 Duress into the board. I actually shaved on a Pyroblast. So all of you that don't want to play Pyroblast because it's expensive, well, now there's one less. And we board out these striped Riverwinders for the Duress, just because Riverwinder can be a little bit awkward cycling for blue mana sometimes. So here we're just, adding in a little bit of interaction for the cards that could be a little awkward anyway.
All right, and that's it as far as boarding goes.
That's it.
I mean, I do love it when a deck just like boards 2 cards and it's like, yep, nope, that's all we need.
There are matchups where we board a lot, but this just isn't one of those.
All right, I imagine this is a mulligan.
It is. Lotus Petal is not quite a land. If that was a land, that would have been a snap keep.
And this looks great.
Yeah,
What's going back here? This card?
that is correct. Good intuition. So you have to keep your cycler count high. As you saw in game number 1, we were a little bit light on cyclers, so it made things a little more tighter than it needed to be. So here we have the double disruption and then the cyclers.
All right. Going in. We just take the weather the storm so we never have to deal with that.
Honestly, one of the nice things, Phil, as long as that we click fast enough, we'd never have to worry about weather the storm. So I would probably take the Manamorphose, trying to just make sure they never find Galvanic Relay.
Sure, sounds good.
One of the big differences between the Relay Storm and the Cycle Storm deck is once you get really good with Cycle Storm, weather the storm never matters. Your opponent can gain 80. We will win.
Okay. So it looks like our opponent might do something relatively unfair here. Feels to
Looks
me
like
like,
they
yeah,
might
it
have
feels
drawn.
to me like they drew a relay if they're going for that line.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, though, it's only for 4. They hit a Kessig.
2 of
I
them
would
hit
just
that.
cycle the healer.
Sure. Should I cycle Street Wraith first?
Sure.
Ball Ritual. Sure. All right.
Actually, I can't cast anything other than the Dark Ritual next turn.
Yeah, that's actually quite nice.
Yeah, let's cycle the healer.
Okay.
Let's try to hit that land drop, yeah.
Yeah, land drop would be sick. Okay.
We might get to make you happy, Phil. If our opponent doesn't do the thing this turn, next turn we might want to put a Horror of the Broken Beatdown into play.
Yeah, that seems pretty reasonable because, like, we look to be a decent amount away from actually going off here.
They drew the
Oh,
red
no.
source.
Oh, no.
Lucky dog.
Okay, so that means Manamorphose can happen, giving our opponent access to multiple red or to green, depending on what they want to do. Ooh. Alright, so there's their win condition. And they've
Now
got
they get
2
the
of them
weather.
and a pretty respectable weather the storm. They're running on empty, but, like, they're at 38 life.
Alright, so let's just cycle.
Okay.
At this point, the only way we lose this, I think, is if we take up too much time. Like 10 minutes is a reasonable amount of time, but I think that we should be able to win before our opponent wins with Kessig.
When we're at 14?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like they're empty-handed.
I think I'm gonna die in, like, 2 turns, but, like, I'll be very happy if I'm wrong.
I think we're okay. Once again, I'd probably just cycle here.
Sure. A Dark Ritual.
Okay. So I'd probably just move to discard and discard the Duress.
Sure. Yeah, I just think our opponent is gonna make a 2/2 Samurai and ruin my day.
We're fine.
Okay. I'm super nervous.
I mean, it's not like the Samurai has haste.
Yeah. Only vigilance. So we're dead next turn. So, like, we're going.
Okay, so let's Dark Ritual.
So we're
And
at
then
eight
another.
cards in graveyard as well, so we can Cabal Ritual as well.
Correct. It's worth noting that we're at 4 life, which means if our opponent uses the Lotus Petal to cycle Chromatic Star into a Dark Ritual, they could get us. Um, let's cycle the Stinger and the Vantasaur. We really want to spike the Songs of the Damned here.
Okay.
I would not cycle Barrenmore. It's
Okay.
not a creature. You want to maximize Songs of the Damned. Like, it's probably not going to matter, and it looks like it didn't, but it's fine. So
All right.
here I think we just play Reaping the Graves.
Understood. Or wait, we target Street Wraith first after with the Storm trigger.
Yes, but keep in
It
mind we could
matters
lose to them
less this
drawing into
time.
Dark Ritual, but I mean I think that's a pretty big corner case, and we shouldn't play around that. Then you can return. Oh, okay, that worked out.
All
So
right.
let's cycle.
I cycle this?
Yeah, why not?
All right. Down to 2.
All right. Well, we can't
We're
cycle
not
that
gonna
one.
cycle that one. We'll cycle this. Found a Lotus Petal.
Come on, Songs of the Damned.
Eh.
All right, cycle again. We're over 33% of the way through.
All right.
On deck.
Do I cycle this immediately?
Yeah, we have to.
All right.
All right, so you can return the healer. So we can, one thing to think about here is we're at 2. So if we wanted to get a little cheeky, well, let's play the swamp. Playing the swamp is free. We could exhume back a healer and then cycle, but I think that's a losing line. Instead, I think we should just cycle horror, hoping to spike a songs.
Nope.
All right, let's try again.
This is basically the last attempt, right?
Correct. Ah, that's rough.
All right.
Looks like we're going to game 3.
Sounds good. Yeah, I don't know. I think you had more faith than I did. Although, like, we got pretty deep without hitting another songs.
Well, we never had a first songs.
Oh, I suppose you're right. Yeah, like we're at 34
That, that
cards and didn't hit a song.
Yeah, that was the choke point that game. Sometimes one of the things about Pauper is I don't want to say it's a low power level format, but I definitely would say that the variance levels are higher because there aren't things like tutor effects. So sometimes you just never really find that Reaping the Graves for Songs of the Damned, which is why I've added back in the one of mystical teachings. But we also didn't hit that either. So even with a 5th effect, we didn't hit.
All right. Are we changing anything or just going right back in?
Let's head back on in.
All right.
What do you think?
It seems like our mana doesn't work.
I would keep this.
Really?
You're a deck with 12 lands. I know it doesn't have that initial black source, but it's part of the way that the deck is built. Like, you have 2 cantrips in your hand. You just gotta have a little bit of faith that you'll hit. And if you do hit, your hand's really good.
All right. So we just play Ash Barrens and cycle immediately.
Yeah.
All right. This is wild to me.
There it is.
All right.
All right. So in your upkeep, you're gonna cycle that for a swamp because you don't want to draw another swamp.
Understood. Okay, opponent has another one of these lands that taps for 2. And I will go ahead and do my cycling. Grab my swamp. Play my
And
swamp,
let's
and I
cycle.
imagine I duress. Oh, no. Really?
I mean, you can. Let's stress. It's fine. Like, I don't feel strongly either way about it.
All right.
For the sake of time, let's take the weather just because we are a little bit low on clock.
Sounds good. But if you were just playing yourself and, like, you didn't have to talk me through my first games with this deck, you would take, like, a Metamorphose there or something, or just take
I
the
would have.
Flame Breather.
Yeah.
Or no, you can't take that with the duress. JK. All right. So that's
Looks
gone.
like our opponent's getting a
That's
little
gone.
wild here. They're going to try to Manamorphose into it.
I mean, I
think we can check
respect
off the
being
swamp as
cheeky.
well.
I'm sorry I didn't catch that. What about the swamp?
I think we can check it off. They played it.
Oh, yes, understood.
And it looks
That's
like both copies of
Manamorphose as well. Okay.
All right. So let's cycle the horror. And then we can cycle healer. Or I'm sorry, stinger. The island's not bad.
Yeah, I mean, Island lets us just go one deeper here.
Yep.
Okay. I'm just going to dismiss that because my own graveyard is going to become more important very quickly here. Okay, sure. Opponent's got a good amount of velocity now. Gonna sting if they can play a like a galvanic relay.
So ideally, we don't care about the relay because we might want to try to win on our turn depending on what we find. But obviously, things could always change.
Oh, they're undoing. Okay, they're just gonna make a land drop first.
Okay,
Sure,
Keswig.
so this attack brings us to 10. There's a decent number of worlds where we end up dying next turn. Okay. That's 8. 6. They've got one card.
Weather.
No. Oh, they're just taking damage while they can get it. So any spell will kill us next turn.
Correct.
All right. So I
So let's
imagine we
cycle the
start here.
Vantasaur off the Barons. Yeah. Let's go to 2.
Okay. All right. So we're not cycling that one. I guess
All
it's
right.
Dark
So let's
Ritual
tap
time.
the island.
Okay.
I'd tap the island and
Island for
cycle
Stinger.
Stinger.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, this doesn't feel good. Let's play some Dark Rituals. Play the pedal. And let's Reaping the Graves. Cannot return Street Wraith.
All right. Grab a Vantasaur.
All right, so we have a couple hits here to try to draw into Songs of the Damned. So let's cycle.
Nope.
Nope. Oh.
All right. There's a Cabal Ritual.
I would cast that. I know that it shuts us off the blue for Repository Scob, but we need to cycle.
Okay.
I would cycle the Stinger here.
Okay.
So
Well,
let's return the Vantasaur. Yep. Come on, Songs.
that's songs. Cast.
Okay. No, let's bring back the Vantasaur.
Okay.
And then cycle that, because theoretically you could cycle into... Ooh, that was good.
All right.
We have a land drop, correct?
Correct.
So let's cycle that for an island.
All right, there's Island.
And now let's play Songs.
Yep.
Repository Scab back the Songs.
All right. I'll exploit it. Grab songs. Cast immediately.
Yep. And then Reaping the Graves, getting back Scab plus everything that you can.
Storm's 9, so I imagine that's everything.
Yeah, I would target the Street Wraiths last if you can, but... So one thing I'd be looking to do here is that if we draw into a Lotus Petal or the Blood Celebrant, we can play a Dranith Healer. Ooh, that was good, because that can mean that we can... Let's just keep cycling. If we hit a Lotus Petal, we can cast Ploy now and gain a bunch of life. I would not cycle that.
Too
Okay,
bad.
so that's fine. So let's cycle here.
Yeah.
Cycle that.
All right. More
Okay.
Lotus Petal.
Let's cycle this.
Yeah, that's very good.
Perfect. Nope.
That.
You're too eager. You're an eager beager, Phil.
I'm looking at my clock.
Gotta maximize. Let's keep cycling.
All right.
Cycle.
All right. Repeat the process.
Dark Ritual.
Cast that. Cycle this.
Cast that.
All right. Don't cycle that.
Not that one. All right.
All
All right.
right,
So now let's play Lotus Petal. Crack it for a blue and cast the Ploy.
Sure. I don't actually know what this card does.
Draw 2.
Okay.
Just heard the
discard
dress.
one. Got it.
Now we can cycle Street Wraiths.
Oh my god. I'm gonna have to read this card later because I just gained a stupid amount of life.
Keep cycling the creatures.
Okay, that's very good.
Cycle. Cycle the creature. Cycle the creature.
Process repeats.
All right, so that was perfect. Repository Scab, get back songs.
Okay.
All right, we can do this, Phil. I believe in us.
All right. Yes. Back a
Song. So
songs.
yep,
Cast
and then
immediately.
yep, exhume, get back the scob,
All right, there it
back
is.
songs.
Grab
We can do
songs.
it. All right. So
Cast
then
songs. Reaping the graves. Everything.
everything as fast as you can.
All right. Yeah. 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 Uh-huh.
All right. So yep. And now let's just cycle creatures until we hit the blood celebrant or a lotus petal to play the stinger.
Got it.
Well,
All right.
instead of let's just let everything resolve real quick. Okay, don't bother cycling anymore. We hit the exhume.
Okay.
So now just let it all resolve. Let's bring everything back. We can do it. And then we already cycled one stinger, so we can exhume back the other one.
All right. So I'll exhume a stinger. Do I have a
Now let's
lotus
start
petal or anything?
cycling.
Okay.
Nope. So let's auto yield to the triggers.
Got it. All right. There's a
Alright,
lotus
so now we can
petal.
play another one.
Cast another one of these.
I'm so nervous, Phil. I'm so nervous.
Well, now I
We can
can
do
just
it.
like fire these off pretty quickly. I'll always yield. And I think we're good from here.
I'm biting my nails, Phil. Look what you've done to me. I'm a monster.
I mean, with a minute left and all this mana, I'm very good. I could definitely optimize more here and put another one of these in play, but there's really no need. And you know what? Let's just cycle with one on the stack to show that I understand the trick. All
We
right,
did it.
got there. It should go faster in following rounds now that I kind of like know what's up. But this is a powerful deck list. Also, like, apologies to my opponent. Normally, I'm not down 17 minutes on clock. All right, round two, we're on the play, and I'm guessing you're going to tell me this is a keep.
It is a keep. It's an ugly keep, but it's a keep. Technically, it's better than the hand we cut last round.
All right, let's cycle, and then let's cycle.
Yeah, we have to play the Ash Barons, but this hand is, when you look at that, you should have looked at this hand and said, hey, I have 4 cantrips. Like, that is a keep.
Yeah, that's definitely a paradigm shift. Like, I looked at this hand and saw like no colored mana. That's a mulligan. But like now, I totally get where you're coming from.
So if I had to guess, our opponent's probably playing fairies, which is one of the matchups where Exhume tends to be better, but we don't have the Stripe Riverwinder quite yet.
All right, we're just gonna try to hit some land drops here. Ugh.
So secretly, this
This
is
is
good because
actually okay, right? We just discard the scab.
exactly. Impulse. So they might not be on
Impulse is
fairies.
not typical for fairies. Yeah. All right, I'll discard this. We'll see what sort of nonsense my opponent is up to.
Is this going to be a pieces of the puzzle? No. Okay, so we hit a black source. That's
All
good.
right, I imagine we cycle a stinger first, though, right?
Correct.
And then, yeah, we do want to play this. All right, good stuff. We have multiple reapings and a song and an exhume. Oh, our opponent is potentially just going to be like,
Turbo Fog.
yeah,
I would probably just cycle. I don't feel the pressure to do anything here, if I'm being honest.
yep, okay. I mean, we're gonna hit a land drop. That's fantastic. Yeah. Ooh, nice. All right, just pass the turn here.
Yeah, and then I'd probably cycle on their end step. If you want to be lazy and cycle on your main phase, it's probably not going to matter. It's been a while since I faced the Turbo Fog deck, like maybe a year.
So this is the deck that has the like Quandrix card, right, or whatever that like makes a giant fractal token. Is that in here?
I haven't seen that in the Turbo Fog decks, but it's certainly possible. Usually that's like the blue red serpent deck.
Ah, that's right. Okay, I'm conflating those two. All right, am I
So
playing this Baron more or cycling this Baron more?
I think we should try to trick our opponent a little bit here and just start off on the Cabal Ritual to see if they'll counter it.
Okay. I absolutely respect the bait spell.
Like everyone loves countering a Cabal Ritual.
Ah, nice.
All right. So then I'd play Dark Ritual to see if they'll counter that.
All right. Okay, they will.
Phil, it's not easy being this okay at Magic. All right. So
uh,
now we play the Lotus Petal and then Songs of the Damned.
all right, we're just going.
Yeah, we created our own window.
All
Now
right,
we can cycle the Baron more.
got it.
Play this. I guess we don't have to play Swamp. Let's exhume back the Repository Scob.
Oh, exhume first. Understood.
Because once again, this is just black regrowth, and the best thing we can do here is make sure we don't fizzle by not having enough mana.
All right, so we'll
So
return our songs.
exactly,
Cast it now.
sure,
All right, so we're up to 14 mana, and now we reaping the graves. So repository
correct.
scab gets clicked on first.
You got it. You're getting the hang of it.
Yeah, and then we just kind of get everything else in some semblance of order. All right, so we cycle this bad boy. Ooh, we're gonna have a lot of gas. So now mana is our bottleneck again, right?
Correct.
Hey, mana. And
It's weird that in this deck, Dark Ritual is your worst ritual.
oh wow, okay. Oh, okay. Another songs. That's
Let's hang
fantastic.
on to that
Sure.
because the way that it works is if you have mana floating, you can just cycle into more creatures, and that songs can end up making 15 mana by the time this Reaping the Graves is done resolving.
Yeah, makes sense. So pick up another one.
That's a blue source, so I don't mind that. Because we are returning Repository Scob here.
Okay.
And then another one.
Cycle again. Yeah, this is going to be very large.
I will not make any inappropriate jokes.
Okay. So now I just cast this and return my good ritual, right?
Correct.
Or wait, is it
And
in?
it is in there.
Okay.
By casting this Repository Scob first, we're making sure that the Songs of the Damned that's in our hand is going to make an extra black mana too, so it's proper sequencing.
Makes sense. All
Okay.
right. Now, I don't even need to cast this yet. I just do the whole
Um,
reaping the graves thing again, right?
you could, but you can only get a couple cycles in before you have to cast one.
All right, then I'll just fire one off now since I have another in hand. All right, my storm count is 1,000,000,000. So I will go ahead and just get everything back.
Honestly, Phil, before this is done resolving, I think I would just cast this other songs because I think we're at the point where we should just win the game.
Okay,
So yeah,
sounds
let's
good.
just cast it.
All right, so should I just resolve all of this?
Yeah. And then we just have to do a couple cycles to find a Lotus Petal or the Blood Celebrant.
Sure.
You can return everything, it's fine.
We can hang out with some stuff on this deck. It's okay. All right, there's a Lotus Petal. So I imagine I return the rest and then play my first Stinger.
Correct. So basically, and I know that I talked about it in the intro, but this Reaping the Graves is essentially like a draw 15. It's like the best way of looking at it.
Yeah, it's pretty gross.
There's an older Storm deck that was pre my time in Pauper. Or Phil, are you familiar with the card Sprouting Vines?
Remind me, because I know that I've seen that card, but I don't remember what it is off the top of my head.
It is a green storm spell where you search your deck for any number of basic lands and then put them to your hand.
Oh,
So there was a deck that was almost similar to Cycle Storm in the fact that you would create a storm count using Sprouting Vines as your card advantage engine, and then you would pair it with Tolarian Winds. So you would winds away all of the lanes you put to your hand, draw a brand new stack of cards, and then play a bunch of rituals and stuff, and eventually you would win the game. It was a rug colored combo deck. I've never personally played it just because it was before my time, but maybe one day.
all right. So we're just kind of looking for the second Lotus Petal. Do we have a basic mountain? No,
Not in the
right?
main deck.
Okay. Then I will continue to cycle on. We'll find a Celebrant or a Petal at some
There's our
point. Okay,
bloody friend.
there we go.
And now you can play four stingers.
Now it gets fast.
So every
Stinger.
time I have four stingers in play, Phil, I can't help but think of the Danny DeVito meme where he's like, "So anyway," and
I
then I
started
started blasting.
Yeah. All right. There's the four of a kind. I guess I can randomly make a blue here. Do a river winder. There's 4.
Ash Barrens
There's
for the win.
4 more. Yep, absolutely. Kill opponent
Who knew a land could
with
be
a
so
land.
lethal?
All right, good stuff. All right. So I imagine most of what our opponent does doesn't overly concern us, but we probably need some amount of like the duress pyroblast stuff as interaction, right?
Correct. So I think the real question that I have is, do we think our opponent has a bunch of graveyard hate? I don't know the answer to that. So I don't like the Exhume plan here because beatdown against the Fog deck usually isn't that great. So I'd actually board out the Exhumes.
Okay,
Those would be
that
the
makes
first
sense to
cards.
me.
Yeah, that I'd be looking to get rid of. And Phil, I know that you loved it in match number 1, but Dihada's Ploy, they're not really threatening our life total, so I'd be shaving that. I'd be bringing in at least the Mountain and the Pyroblast. I know that much. Um, and I'm somewhat tempted to board in Duress, but I also think that like maybe instead we board in Mearshell Crab because it can stifle a relic. Uh,
Okay.
by stifle, I mean counter that ability. So
So what else comes out here? Like we have another pyroblast we can bring in if we want, and if we want to bring in some crabs, that requires some more cuts as well.
yep, I think we can board out a Lotus Petal because we are bringing in a basic mountain.
Okay.
So one petal. And then usually you can board out some number of cyclers. So I'd board out at least 2 of the Striped Riverwinder. One thing you'll notice is Riverwinder is definitely like the flex spot of the deck.
Okay. So this gives us pyroblast and 2 crabs, or do you want duress?
I would do Pyroblast and 2 crabs. We can bring in the Duress if you'd like, but it comes at the cost of boarding out a few cycling creatures.
No, let's keep our density relatively high. All right. We've got a Song of the Dams. We've got a Reaping the Graves. We only have 1 cycler. Well, I guess we kind of have 3 cyclers. This is a keep, right?
It is. Although, Phil, I have bad news for you. I'd probably play the Barrenmore on turn 1, so that way I can cycle the Ash Barrens for a mountain.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Or the island. I guess we boarded out Ploy. Let's see what our draw step is.
The
All
mountain.
right, that changes everything. Sorry. So now I'd play the mountain. I think I'd cycle the Ash Barrens for swamp. So that way we can cycle the Barrenmore.
Yep, sounds good. And I'm going to be a lazy magic player and do that right now.
Time is valuable.
Yeah, Pauper
Looks
is
like they
not quite as intricate in Legacy in terms of like number of ways your opponents can interact with you. You don't get punished for being lazy as often here. All right. So my opponent has a single mana up. Do I just cast this?
probably boarded in Hydroblast. I still think we want to continue with the primary game plan, so I'd probably just double cycle.
Okay. So we'll cycle that, and then we'll play Swamp and cycle Baron more, unless something changes drastically. All right. Blood Celebrant. That just chills in our hand. We cycle Baron more.
That's what I would do.
All right.
I do make jokes about this deck being human beatdown sometimes, but I don't think that's appropriate at the moment.
Okay. There's our turn. We've got good tools here. We'll kind of need to trick our opponent into countering something at some point. Are we just cycling healer off mountain here?
Yeah. I think we want to hit lane number 3 that isn't Barrenmore, because we want to cycle the Barrenmore to keep our cycling density high.
All right, cycle Baronmore.
Yeah. And if we need to, we can always discard the Blood Celebrant and get it back later.
Sounds good. All right, and it looks like that will be the plan. Ooh. Oh, yeah, okay. That's fine.
Accumulated knowledge.
So we now have 6 cards in graveyard. So we're getting to
3
the
of them
point
are
where
creatures.
Cabal Ritual gets good. Yeah, we have 3 creatures in there. Only 2 of which are cycling creatures, though. That's a little lower than what we'd like.
Did they just mill us?
He just milled us.
Ah, we only have 1 creature. I don't know why they do that. Crazy person.
That's their eventual win condition. Okay, so they're gonna tap our mountain and our swamp.
So
Uh,
something we could do, and I don't know if I love this, but we could do it, Phil. Is we could Cabal Ritual, maybe even Dark Ritual as well, return some cyclers, and then if we spike a land, we could try to win this turn. Um,
This is hmm.
this is an interesting decision
Oh,
here.
wow.
So, how do you feel about Dark Ritual, Cabal Ritual, Reaping, return all 4 creatures, and then cycle?
I think I like it.
Let's do it.
All right, double Dark Ritual, 1 Cabal Ritual, right?
Correct.
Dark Rit, Dark Rit, Cabal Rit, Reaping.
Yep.
It
Bring
doesn't
our dead friends home, Phil.
sounds good. I'll get Stinger, Healer, Blood Celebrant, and then it doesn't matter. That one's redundant. All right, so we begin. Cycle, cycle. Okay. Uh, do we keep this? Do we cast this? This is kind of a weird
Mm,
spot.
I think we just draw a little bit because there's always the chance that we fizzle. So I don't want to waste our mana if we don't have to. But I do think it's also pretty free to cycle off this mountain at some point to keep the black mana open.
Okay. All right. That one has to be cycled off the black. So should I cycle this off mountain?
I think I would, yeah.
Okay. All right. Looking good. Still looking good. Okay. Now, do I cast a songs? This isn't targeting anything anymore.
That one's empty.
Yeah.
Um, I don't think I would cast songs because we're still in our upkeep, so you could probably just cycle the Vantasaur.
Okay. Ash Barrens. Okay. So now my opponent's spell resolves and taps my land.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not that big of a deal. Do I just play Ash Barrens?
I think
Or do we
so.
want this to get an island?
Well, here's the thing. We have to discard if we don't play it, and I think every card in our hand is pretty valuable. And we could always use the Blood Celebrant to convert to blue for the Mirror Shell Crab.
Got it. All right. So opponent forced our hand a little bit, but once we find another Reaping or a Scab or something, we're pretty good. Are we getting Giga Droust again? No. All right. So do I just want to play Lotus Petal and then Blood Celebrant and call it a turn?
I think that's good.
Let's see if this evokes any response from our opponent. I'm guessing the answer is no. This one could, I guess. But all right. Turn.
Legion's All Star Blood Celebrant.
All right, we just stop here. Like, we don't want to like ritual out a Mirror Shell Crab, right?
I don't think I would. This is the last matchup in the entire format where I think that I'm on the beatdown plan.
Okay. They don't have anything to do with their mana, so that means no AK type cards in hand. Sure. All right.
Reaping the Graves. Let's go.
Let's take a little peek. We've got a lot of mana. I can safely attack with a 1/1, right?
Yeah, I think so. I've never seen any creatures out of this deck, though, like flash creatures at least.
All
Although
right.
I do think it'd be funny if you got literal ambush flavored.
It sure would. All right. So I'm just checking the text of this. So this is a mana leak or mana leak stifle. Pretty
Correct.
legit. All right. Cycle.
I would, yeah.
All right. We have a
We
basic
can-
island to get.
we do.
Go ahead and snag that then.
We are the aggro.
Human beatdown. This is my language. Just death by 1,000 cuts. 4 mana. Oh, just straight up scry. Absolutely.
All of the Draenith are humans. The healer is also a cleric, but I think the stinger is like a wizard. Ooh. So I think I attack here, and then post combat, I would try to play Cabal Ritual to see if they'll counter it. So that way, you're essentially using Cabal Ritual as a duress
Sounds
because
good.
they don't know that your hand is blanks. So let's see if we can take advantage of it.
Yeah. If a Cabal ritual resolves, I can also potentially just like cast a crab with a Pyroblast backup, right? Like that's a thing that exists.
Theoretically, I wouldn't do that, but if you want to, Phil, we can.
Okay, it has resolved.
I would personally pass the turn, but if you want to play crab, you're more than welcome.
All right. So what is the crab gonna do if I keep it in hand?
So on the critical combo turn, let's say we draw Reaping the Graves next turn. Your opponent is going to have to commit some mana, so it's going to counter a counter spell on something like a Songs of the Damned. Because usually, if they're not willing to hit Cabal Ritual, they're going after Songs.
Okay, I will pass the turn then. I, inexperienced combo player that I am, would have crabbed.
It's just not the right matchup, is all. Like, there's some matchups where, like, accelerating out Crab is totally fine, but I just don't think the Turbo Fog deck is the one.
Yeah,
If you
I
think
just
about the
don't know how
texture,
many fog sort of things they have to stop this once it's in play.
well, none of them target is the big thing. They're all just like fogs, and I think they have so many that they can't afford to board them all out. Plus, like they know that we have Horror of the Broken Lands, so they never come out anyway.
Okay,
Um,
that makes sense. Yeah, that makes
our
me
opponent,
less inclined to want to crab anyway.
okay, that we actually have a Reaping in the Graveyard, right? We do.
Yeah.
So let's get in there. Like also our opponent, like they've been scrying every turn with the Coandrix while not cantripping. So their hand is either all counter spells, all 6 cards, or there's likely some fog effects in there.
All right, makes sense. Now, what am I doing with this scab? Like, do I need to cast anything first?
Dark Ritual.
Sounds good.
Let's play the Cabal Writ off of the Barons.
All right, there's Cabal Writ.
Now let's try to play that Scob. My favorite zombie.
I don't know what my favorite zombie is without like really sitting down and thinking, oh wow, it resolved. Okay,
You ready to party?
I'm ready to party. All right, so I sacrifice this to itself, and I return Reaping the Graves.
Correct.
Okay,
Wow. Was not expecting that.
that's bad.
Jeez.
Uh, they have 4 mana up.
Um, I was not expecting that. We just have to let that go. It's a bummer.
Okay, F.
Yeah.
All right,
I mean, we didn't commit any Songs of the Damned. I think ultimately
are
it
we on
stinks, but
Operation Cast a Crab now?
if you want, we still can. I wouldn't personally.
All right, I will not cast a crab. What a blowout, though.
Hard to argue that. I think if their graveyard hate is Return to Nature, we would prefer that over something like Relic or Tormod's Crypt. So, like, I think we take that.
I absolutely agree. This was just like something that was very hard to see coming.
Yeah.
Like I thought with a pyroblast and a crab, we were pretty safe.
I thought we would be winning this turn.
Okay. Oh, my opponent is actually doing main phase mana stuff.
Ooh, they hit another Reaping the Graves. And Phil, it's a little small for me, but is that another repository scob?
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a bummer.
So we've got
So
one reaping in exile, one in graveyard here. So we need to spike one of our other 2 from the deck.
we also have a Mystical Teachings.
Okay. That's not it.
Womp womp.
So just something else. We are at 19 cards in deck. So there are some worlds where things could get a little tight on that front as well.
Yeah.
All right, scry away. So the replicate on this is 4. We're not in any immediate danger of just like milling out to 1 card or anything, but
Okay, let's cycle that healer.
all right. Hey, that's very good.
It's time to party.
All right.
For real this time.
I guess I attack first, right?
I'd probably start on Dark Ritual, so that way you can respond with more copies of songs.
Sure. All right.
All
Here
right.
we go.
I would
Okay.
make a red and Pyroblast.
Sure. Boom. All right. So now I just play out my
Okay.
songs purely for storm count, right?
Yeah, there's actually a cool trick you can do here, but honestly, there's no point when you have this much mana. Like, you have so much mana, Phil, that you're just bragging.
All right. The
Yeah, I would
reaping.
return both copies of Repository Scob here, and then the Stingers.
Sure. So I want to target one of the repository scabs at the very end, right?
Yep.
2, 3, 4. Turn the other scab,
And then the other Stinger.
the other stinger,
So I think that here what we can do is because we have 36 mana floating, we just return everything, play some Stingers,
and then
and
go.
then yeah.
Sounds good. 36 mana doesn't seem uh overly common to me. Like
It
that's a
happens.
lot.
You'd be surprised. So there's actually a pretty cool infinite loop that we could do here if we had more time and mana. So with double repository scob, you can get back Reaping the Graves and Songs of the Damned over and over. The choke point is blue mana, but you have a blood celebrant. So then the choke point becomes life. Well, Phil, we have Dranith Healer. We don't care about that. That's fine. Just let all of those resolve very quickly. Um, there's no auto yield, unfortunately.
Okay.
But once you have that loop, you can just keep on bringing back songs and reaping over and over, but only targeting repository scobs with the reapings, and you end up making infinite black mana. And then you just cycle like one or two creatures per reaping, and you draw through your deck. So it's technically not infinite because it's capped by your deck size, but you can make like hundreds of black mana.
Sick. Okay. Cool.
And if they try to cast another Weather the Storm, we can stifle the Storm trigger with the Mirror Shell Crab.
Sounds good. All right. It's just happened.
Cycle.
All right. Time to yield to a lot of different things. All right. Good stuff. Oh yeah.
I would just play that.
Yeah, it definitely will speed things up here. All right. Cycle this, get a lightning bolt out of my cycle. You'll love to see it. Now we'll play
All
a
right.
scab. And scab returns Reaping the Graves. Okay. Reaping the Graves. I just cast that immediately, right?
Yeah.
Target a
So you'll
scab
see
and
here, our opponent gained 27 life, and it's just not going to matter. Where with the relay deck, that's actually pretty crucial. The most that I've dealt personally with Cycle Storm is 88 damage, I believe it was. Um, but the deck can just deal a lot. Like 88 isn't even that much because, like I mentioned, with the double repository scob, you can, in air quotes, go infinite and deal. I haven't done over 100 yet because that hasn't happened, but you can deal 200 if you want.
Gigadrouse tapping my island.
Go to blue.
I'll float a blue. All right, so there's a Weather the Storm, so I just cycle my crab. Or, well, channel my crab.
Channel. Counter the trigger. Yeah.
Counter the trigger. All
Not
right,
up in here. Get out of
good
here.
stuff. And this is the sort of reason why a lot of people hyped up Mirror Shell Crab. It allows you to deal with some things that otherwise would just be a major pain in the butt to deal with.
Exactly.
And now, even though our opponent's at 40, we should be able to laser him down pretty handily. We
I
still
think
have
Crab is
19 mana.
honestly underplayed, Phil. A lot of people right now are talking about the power of the relay deck, but nobody's playing Mearshell Crab. Like other than Cycle Storm, it's pretty rare to find, and I think Mearshell Crab would be a pretty big step in stopping the Galvanic relay deck.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. Let's try to do this again. All right, we're 2-0. We're here for round 3. We have some cyclers. I imagine we view this as 4 cantrips and we just keep.
All day.
All right, starting to figure out the mulligan decisions. All right, Rift Bolt.
Burn.
We're under the gun.
So this is a deck where we just cut our our sideboard life gain. So we're gonna get to test that theory out today.
All right, I'm just going to cycle the Riverwinder on turn 1, just on the off chance that we kind of like hit an exhume sort of situation and are able to just sneak that into play.
We probably want to create that stop on our upkeep again to cycle the Ash Barrens, because that is the best way of doing that. Is because you basically thin your deck of that swamp so you don't draw it, so that way you're keeping your density high.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. All right.
And the draw. Okay.
I mean, cyclers are good.
Yeah. Let's cycle the Drenith Healer. Because honestly, I'd rather exhume a healer in this matchup than I would Stripe Riverwinder.
Okay, sounds good.
I
I
would
don't.
hold the Lotus Petal like it's Storm. Although being on the draw, pretty scary.
Yeah, absolutely. So like, burn decks often put you to the test of like, are you doing a thing fast enough? All right, this card is horrifying. If you have never seen this card in action before, it's spooky.
So I think we tap the island and cycle here.
Sounds good. All right, do we cycle this?
I think we hold that because that's hidden information.
Okay,
Our opponent has 3 cards, so they're going to go up to 4. It's not impossible for them to kill us, but I have a feeling that they won't.
I agree
So I
with
would
that.
cycle the horror here.
All right, that's a reaping.
Okay, so I would probably just discard a creature here and pass. Maybe the
Sure,
Vantasaur. And then next turn, I think we are going for it no matter what.
I agree with that. I hope our opponent just kind of like taps out and like does everything they can possibly do, which is possible. It just lets us know like how safe our street wraiths are. All right, there's another skewer, which is really
Well,
worth
Phil, you
4
might get your
damage.
wish here. They might tap out and do everything they possibly can.
Yeah, that's true. So that ping brings us to 5. That brings us to 2. Curse brings us to 1. So we're not dead, but we're priced into going for it now.
We can't use the Blood Celebrant anymore, so let's Dark Ritual here.
Yep, just absolutely always doing that.
Cycle Horror.
And gotta get a little lucky here.
Yep.
Cycle horror.
Cycle Horror. Yep.
Eh.
Let's tap the island
Island.
and cycle Vantasaur. Come on, songs.
Songs. Eh.
All right, so we technically have one more look. Let's
Yeah,
cycle
we can
Stinger.
cycle Stinger. Stinger or Barrenmore? Stinger, right?
Correct, because it's a creature.
Shoot.
Womp womp.
Yeah, now there's no line where Lotus Petal Barrenmore gets us to the required mana to do what we need to do.
Correct.
I'm gonna show myself the door then. Oh, no, I can't even show myself the door. Don't have the life to pay. That's the real daggers of this situation. All right. So, what's your plan here? Are we going up on Striped Riverwinders and Exhumes? Are we playing Duresses? How do you approach this matchup?
So I talked about a little bit in the intro, but my plan here is that I'm looking at Dranith Healer is our life gain engine. So what I'm doing is I want to go up on Exhumes. So I'm just going to say, hey, I'm going to bring back our healers and gain incremental life this way. And I'm boarding out the Riverwinders.
Okay, sounds good. And
So
again,
this
we're
is
making just very small adjustments to this deck in many cases.
Yeah, this is only my third time facing burn with this plan, so I'm not going to say it's perfect, but it's something that I wanted to test out because I had done it in a few matches previously with the green list that had Gnaw to the Bone in the sideboard. And if you're unfamiliar with Gnaw to the Bone, it's 2 and a green and has flashback for 2 and a green. Gain 2 life for each creature in your graveyard, but it's just incredibly narrow, where something like Exhume isn't.
All right, is this one a keep?
I would keep it, but it's a hand that doesn't have our key pieces yet. So once again, we have 3 cantrips. Let's just hope that they hit.
Understood. All right, let's do a little cycling. That's not what
Gotta
we're
get that
looking for.
cardio in.
And which card that deals 3 damage are we taking? A Lava Spike. We're just playing this, right? Just immediately.
I'd probably cycle it. We want to hit lane 2.
It's not land 2,
All
but
right.
it's a good card.
We'll probably cycle the healer. Because once again, We can exhume that.
Sure.
Okay, so now all we need is Reaping the Graves. Let's go.
All right.
I-
All right. There's opponent's land drop. And we probably take roughly 6 points of damage this turn. Yep. Exactly
All
6.
right.
All right. We don't have a lot of time left, but that's real damn good.
Okay, so we have 3 creatures in the graveyard.
And another 2 in hand, plus scab.
It's pretty free here to start on the Lotus Petals. Because like, there's no thought into playing those, right?
All right.
Let's cycle a creature
Off
off the
island.
petal. Yeah.
Sure. There's a healer. That's good.
So, Phil, I'm gonna commit blasphemy here. I'm going to play songs for less than a Cabal Ritual. And the reason why is we want to keep that blue mana open for Repository Scob. So this way we can get the threshold off the Cabal Writ.
Okay. So
Now
there's
cycle a few
6.
more.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. Cycle one of these. There's a Dark Ritual. That's great.
Yep.
So we can go Dark Ritual into Cabal Ritual.
Now cycle healer.
All right.
Cycle.
This is looking good. At some point, do we just cast this in case we fizzle?
Nope. We're gonna
Nope.
cycle here. Because we have Repository Scob for that songs.
Sure. Do I just land
But play
cycle
it.
this for a swamp?
I don't think that's like a waste of a mana
Yeah.
almost.
Okay. Yeah,
So
you're right.
I think I would just
Play
actually
it
I think we
and then
hold it for now
sure.
because we might want to use it later for another blue. So let's use Lotus Petal, play Scob.
All right. Sounds good. So we exploit it to its own trigger. Return our Songs of the Damned.
Correct.
Play it
That's making
immediately,
9. Okay.
and we'll reaping.
We have no fear of Fire Blast here, so we can return Street Wraith as the first creature.
Oh, whoops. Oh well.
It's fine.
It can be the second creature.
No worries. We might have missed a healer there, but it's okay.
All right.
So this
Yeah.
brings us down to 5. That's fine.
Okay.
Cycle the Vantasaur.
We don't
I
want
don't.
to do that, right?
Yeah, I don't think it's cycle that one.
So are we? Yeah, we're cycling because I need to hit another color of mana. That's
Okay,
very
so now
good.
we just need a blue source for that repository scob.
Cycling.
Come on, deck.
Cycling.
Come on, songs. Or a Cabal Ritual.
All right, there's a Dark Ritual.
So if we cast that, we go up to 4.
I don't
It's,
cast that yet, right? I do this.
the dark rituals and Cabal Rituals don't really matter when you cast them. But I was trying to count, and if you Dark Ritual, you go up to 4 mana for the Scob, and then if you cycle Ash Barrens, you're 1 short of Scob into songs.
All right, so do I just cycle
You can
this?
let,
Or
sure.
do I? Okay. There's an Exhume.
Unfortunately, the Scob is coming back.
It sure is.
Um, yeah. So let's let this resolve. So something we could do, not that I love it, but we could go Dark Ritual, Exhume, bring back the healer. If we do that, we have a swamp we can play, so we have at least 2 cycles. That would put us up to 7.
Okay.
What do you want to do, Phil? You can also cycle the Street Wraith for 1 life, which gives us another look at Songs of the Damned.
I'm gonna follow your lead here. I'm a little lost in the sauce in terms of like numbers.
How many Cabal Rituals have you used so far? Just the one?
Just the one.
So we have 1 Cabal Ritual, I believe 1 Songs used, so we have 6, 5 hits in the deck, 35 cards. I think let's try putting the healer into play. Let's cast Dark Ritual.
Okay. And then exhume it
And
in.
then, yeah, we can also play the swamp.
Okay. Sure. All right. Here's healer.
And let's cycle a Barrenmore.
All right. Just yield to that. Mystical teachings, not quite what we're looking for. Do I cycle Street Wraith?
I think I would just cycle the Barrymore going up to 7 because it's
Sure.
not,
Well,
2
that
burn spells.
that kind of now I can cycle Street Wraith and go back to 5 if I want.
Well, you would go up to 6 because you have the healer
Yeah.
trigger, but once
Or I can
again,
just play Ash Barrens and cycle and
you played a swamp.
oh, okay. Uh,
So I
okay,
wouldn't cycle Street Wraith personally just because it puts you dead to 2 burn spells.
sure. All right. So I'll just call it turn.
Yeah. It was one of those situations where unfortunately we just didn't hit the big payoff.
All right. If that's going to face instead of killing this, I feel like we're dead.
One? Do you have an opponent?
Okay, opponent had the fire blast, so if we went for the street wraith, we would have died on our own turn. Okay, good to know. GG's.
Let's try one more card if we can.
Dark Ritual.
I don't think that would have made a difference.
I don't
Okay.
either. All right, we're here for round 4. We're 2-1. I see 3 cyclers, 2 lands. This looks good to me.
Yep.
We also may just like exhume an early horror and beat some face. All right, let's see what our opponent is doing. Is there a
So,
Dimir control deck?
um, not usually. We could go turn 1 horror here. I don't hate it.
That's just Dark Ritual, Cycle Horror, Exhume.
Yeah.
It's not that bad, right? It's a little weird if we just like eat a cast down or something. I don't know what this land is indicative of. Like I don't know that I've seen this one in play in Pauper before.
I mean, I just played it in my blue black reanimator deck recently, so they could be on reanimator. But even so, horror of the broken lands puts them in check pretty quickly. It only puts you down 1 card.
Yeah, I'm in for it. Let's do it. I mean,
Dark Ritual.
that's what the channel wants to see, right? Dark Ritual into something stupid on turn 1. Like our
There
viewers
we
love it.
go.
This also is going to hit like a truck. All right. Preordain's still a little ambiguous. I imagine that was in your reanimator deck, though.
It wasn't in mine. Alex Ullman put it in his recently, so if they're on the Alex Ullman list,
All right.
but
Cycle horror.
sure. I think I want to keep 1 horror back for Cabal Ritual because we could play a second one at some point.
Sure. Let's yield to that. There's an island, so I'll just go Island Vantasaur.
Yeah. And that's 8 damage on turn 2.
Yeah, that's not bad. Like that would be a respectable legacy turn. All right. Yeah, there's worlds where we just like kill next turn, right? In the face of our opponent tapping out, we just like play a Cabal Ritual and then cycle 4 times. Or I guess it'd have to be 5.
Yeah. I mean, if we drew a Dark Ritual or Songs or something, it's looking a lot more realistic. Or if we drew Dark Ritual first, I guess either way, that's a plus. Maybe like a Lotus Petal just for the threshold.
I mean,
Um, I feel like
uh,
it's like pretty aggressive. Um,
I think I just cycle a couple of things.
I think we attack first and see if they block. Like they might have like a spell stutter sprite.
Yeah, that's reasonable. Nope.
All right, now I would cycle. I would keep the horror back though.
Okay. That's really good. So let's do that. Okay.
Uh-oh.
So
All
we're at
right.
8. This is 10.
Cycle the Baronmore.
Yeah, this wish I would have played blue
I
blue.
don't want to cycle the Stinger because the Stinger could be like the final piece of damage with
Yeah.
the Lotus Petal.
All right. There's 12. Okay, opponent's at 1. So I can play Lotus Petal.
Oh, I wouldn't have done that because okay, well, they're not a spell stutter deck. If they had spell stutter, that would have been a juicy target. And
Yeah, yeah,
like you're
you're
not
right.
doing anything else this turn, so that's a prime card to counter spell. Because it's like if they're going to die, at least they can use their mana here.
Okay.
Your
Yeah.
mag. Ooh, they're just dead to the cycle on Drenna Stinger.
Yep. Okay. So I'll play Stinger. And then cycle once. Good stuff.
All you needed was a single trigger, Phil.
All right. So I think our opponent probably is playing like a slow blue-black reanimator deck. I don't know for sure. Like they could just be a controlling deck. Like we just didn't see much out of them. We saw 3 cantrips and they died.
Yeah.
So I
So
imagine we're playing the Pyroblasts and the
I
Mountain.
would be interested in boarding out our own copy of Exhume here. Like, I don't think we want to be doing that.
That makes sense to me.
Then board out the Riverwinders.
Okay, so that's 4 cards. That's Mountain and Pyroblasts.
Yeah, that's what I would do.
Okay. Is there any consideration to Crab?
It's fine. I feel like that's a little too reactive in my opinion.
Understood. We'll just go with this and end up wanting to adjust. We can adjust. All right. I think this one's a mulligan. What do you think?
I would agree. No cyclers, you can't keep that. Yay, yay, yay.
That with 12 lands, this isn't keepable, right?
No.
I mean, this is probably a respectable 5-card hand.
Yeah, unfortunately. I
What's going back? Ash
I
Baron's
think
Cabal Ritual.
that's exactly what I was going to recommend.
All right. Good stuff. All right, you can have your life. Play Mountain, cycle Ash Barons for Swamp.
Yep. And then that way we can cycle the Baron Moors.
Sounds good to me. And ooh,
Yikes. Punish for not boarding in the crab.
okay. I mean, now we
Well,
know.
we just found our backup plan.
Yeah, so we just need to get to 5 mana. Do I want to play a Baron more tapped this turn to work towards just hard casting this?
Yes, our plans just switched. I would now play towards the horror.
Yeah.
One
So
thing that I'm sort of rooting for here, Phil, is that sometimes people will keep any single hand with a Nile Spellbomb in it. So I'm hoping that they kept a hand without a second land for the Spellbomb, and then that gives us some time to capitalize with the horror.
uh-oh. Uh-oh. That's
Uh-oh.
Crusher and Dragon's Breath in there.
I don't like that.
I also do not like that.
All right, so
Okay.
we can hardcast the horror here.
All right. That's worth something. There's our Dark Ritual. All right. 3 or 5. All right. It's
Okay.
resolved, but our opponent playing an Exhume here would obviously be really bad. Now, there's not redundancy for Exhume in these Reanimator decks if you're just in blue-black. Like, in another color, you can start getting to, like, late to dinner.
Oh,
Ugh.
Stinkweed Imp.
Oh, that's savage. Okay. So our plan has now become find a pinger, I guess, or find another one of these.
I think we just pass and cycle on their end step. We don't want to do it main phase. It's a Nile Spellbomb.
Okay, sounds good.
So I think how we win this game now, if we're being realistic, is we need to get them to mess up with their Spellbomb.
Yeah, just have them get bored and cycle, or like try to deny us like a Vantasaur coming into play or something off their Exhume. Although I don't know, if they annihilate 2 of our permanents, life gets a lot harder.
I would agree. But sometimes your opponents will get a little jumpy. So they'll say, I can cut them off of Threshold with this Cabal Ritual. Or I can cut them off of 7 mana for Songs of the Damned. And then they'll use the now Spellbomb. You respond with a different Songs of the Damned. And then Reaping the Graves.
All right, so it looks like we're not going to eat any attacks this turn. Yes, absolutely. Just tap lower and lower, please. All right. So do some cycling. Healer. Fine. Uh, okay.
Okay. Cycle the Barrymore.
We've got a decent amount of stuff in graveyard, but we're not really going anywhere yet.
Okay, so that's fine. Well, let's cycle the Vantasaur. Let's try to hit another land here.
Or off a black source.
Off the red. We don't have Pyroblast yet, so okay. So I think we just pass here. Yeah, we don't want to F6 because if they try to
Yeah, if they
spellbomb us, we can
spellbomb.
respond.
Yep. Okay, they're not biting on just blowing that. Like our opponent knows that we can't get through, and they're under effectively no pressure.
Oh no. All right, I would go to the next game here. We need to adjust our board plan.
Okay. Uh, this is rough.
Yeah. All right, so I think we take out the Pyros and then board in the crabs.
Sounds good.
And then I think because we also boarded in mountain, we can board out the mountain and
Okay.
then board in duress.
All right. Sounds good. I think we're fighting an uphill battle in this matchup. Like if our opponent has a couple of sideboard spell bombs and a couple of main deck Bojuka Bogs, in addition to maybe some amount of counter magic or crabs or whatever,
Yeah,
gonna be tough.
this is reasonable.
I think so.
One of the things about the Cycle Storm deck is if your opponent wants to beat it, they usually can, just because Graveyard Hate can be pretty crippling. It is one of the differences between the Relay Storm deck and this deck, is the Relay Storm deck really doesn't care about Graveyard Hate. They do play a Felden's Cane, which has caused a lot of people to side in Graveyard Hate versus it, but it's mostly a trap.
Yeah, that all makes sense to me. Um, So a lot of times, just generally speaking, when you're trying to deal with the storm archetype, you're looking for your deafening silences, your Aethersworn Canonists, those sorts of effects. But those kind of effects just don't exist in Pauper. So it becomes a little tricky to actually interact with the Galvanic Relay Storm decks.
Yeah, so I think one of the things is we already talked about Mearshell Crab not seeing enough play, but also Weather the Storm and then Prismatic Strands are both backbreaking, and I don't think those cards are seeing enough play. Long ponder here from the opponent.
No shuffle though, so they ended up keeping whatever it was. All right.
Cycle. So one of the things here is we can do horror, it's fine. But if we're going to get hit by Bajuka Bog, it's usually best to um, put creatures to the graveyard. We don't ultimately care about that much. That said, having at least one horror in the graveyard also makes them think twice about Exhume. So it's not the worst.
Right. But from here, if we can throw in like the Vantasaurs and the Drannith Healers and stuff before cycling the other horror of the Broken Lands, that's preferable.
Yeah.
All right.
Crusher. There's a bog.
That's a very early bog.
So I think I would probably dress here. I think they might be trying to quick exhume us.
I agree with that. Oh no.
That is a good hand. Holy
Oh my
smokes.
god.
Wow.
Dead?
I don't know how we beat this.
I don't think we can. Like, we take an Exhume, they have another one, they have a Crusher, we're down 2 permanents the next turn. Like, we have to win on our next turn. Do we
So I think you
uh,
take Spellbomb.
I agree. Oh my god, what a hand.
Then you play out Petal. So I think we might just need to put Horror into play and then try to like somehow win on our turn, but I don't know how realistic that is.
Okay. So if they cast an Exhume, I cycle Horror in response off Petal.
Correct. And how we would win is drawing like Dark Ritual and Swamp, I think. That was like a perfect hand.
Like, that Dispel is just like the cherry on top there. Alright, so I will cycle my Horror.
Okay, that's not awful.
Alright. So they have Dispel up. That's a
So
kick in the teeth.
it is theoretically possible to win this.
Alright.
Okay, so let's start on cycling the Street Wraith.
Let's let's just get this thing to 20, right? No big deal.
Yeah, exactly. So unfortunately we're short on like if it would be better if that was a swamp instead. Let's play the Ash Barrens and cycle a creature.
Okay. Let's cycle. We don't really. Uh, so now we just require our opponent to not fire off a counter on this, right?
Correct. Is that an 8/6?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we attack first.
Okay.
So I guess they have an exhume. Just trying to think through here. Yeah, because then it's not attacking next turn, so let's attack first. Because if they don't block, then the Dark Ritual becomes scarier, which makes them want to dispel more.
Okay. They did not block.
So let's cast Dark Ritual now.
All right. I imagine this just gets dispelled. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So we've created a window, and I'm not saying it's a great window, but it's a theoretical window. So now our opponent will attack us with Ula Monk's Crusher.
We'll sack our creature and our Ash Barrens and try to go off next turn.
Exactly.
All right. It's scary, but it's not impossible.
So you're saying there's a chance.
There is. Uh, it's pretty rare that you win after the Eldrazi annihilates your permanents. It happens. We have exactly one turn because like Dimir Aqueduct can come into play this turn and bounce that Bojuka Bog. So like it's kind of now or never.
All
All right.
right, so the Songs of the Damned is just a Dark Ritual. We have to make that work.
All right. So we
All right,
cast
let's
it.
cycle into Cabal Ritual here.
Ugh!
Oh,
Okay. And now we
bummer.
have no outs to win, correct?
Correct.
Unseed. Absolutely backbreaking matchup. I don't feel like we're winning that one. Opponent is ready.
Phil, why can't you open up with lands?
I don't know, but we're gonna have to ship this one. That's got to land. This is probably a keep at this point, right?
It is.
Do we just throw back the scab? Scob.
You have really good intuition, Phil.
Well, once you tell me something once, I usually kind of pick up on it. The 4-drop in hand is probably not where we want to be to start with. Okay.
Ooh, the Boros deck.
Yeah, so we're playing against the kind of Boros bounce deck. I believe it's often referred to as Boros Kitty, but it's not really a name that makes sense anymore.
Would agree.
All right,
So
cycle
one
some.
thing I like doing against them is hiding the street rates for a little bit, just because it allows them to change their game plan because they are a deck that has so much burn in it. So here I'd probably just cycle a Vantasaur.
Sure. Actually, I don't even
It's
need
just
to
like
do that now, right?
you could do it on their end step. It doesn't really matter. Um, it's just like they play 4 Galvanic Blast, 4 Lightning Bolt, and then some lists even play 2 copies of Firebolt. So if you let them know that you're going to start the game at
Oh,
16 life, yeah. Also, Phil, like you, I do not like the name Boros Kitty. I call it Boros Bounce in my videos.
so do I.
No second land.
That's good. It also means like this core Skyfisher might not like come in next turn. Oh, there we
Oh,
go.
slow rolled it. Okay.
So that was just kind of a check to see like, are you F6ing through my turn? All right.
So there's our black source, and then an actual black source.
I'm gonna remove this stop until I need it. All right. So I imagine we go swamp cycle horror, or I guess
Yeah,
I can cycle stinger first.
they're both fine.
No, not cast. I was
So
just
we have
thinking
our
about that for a second. We don't cast it, right? Because they just
no,
have
they're
enough removal spells.
exactly. They also have Journey into Nowhere, so they have removal that isn't even burn. So you just never want to cast. Like I don't even like the reanimate plane here. Just keep cycling.
All right. We can also just like play a street wraith if we need to kind of get in the way of something for a little while. All right. At this point, we have 3 of these in hand. I probably have to use some, right?
I would just pass. Like you just don't need to do it now is the thing. Like why give them that information?
All right.
Something I say a
Sounds
lot in
good.
my videos is ask yourself like what do I gain by doing this?
Yeah, I guess I can't like play a tapped land or anything like that, and I'm not quite close enough to going off that I really need to do that yet.
Yeah. So here we're gonna follow the 17.
Do you know if this deck is currently playing any like Rally the Peasants type cards?
I can check.
Okay, another Coldotha rebirth. That's a little scary. That's a Songs of the Damned.
I think we try to hit Reaping the Graves this turn.
I agree.
We have
Let's go
5
for it.
hits with the newly added mystical teachings, so
There's
there's another
one.
songs.
There's two. There's Reaping the
Yes!
Graves.
Alright.
That probably means we've just got it, right? Well,
I
it's
don't
not
wanna
like
jinx it yet.
deterministic, but real good chance.
Yep.
I'm gonna go ahead and cycle this as well.
It's time to party, Phil.
All right. Yeah. Okay. That's cool.
Dark
So Dark
Ritual.
Ritual. Cycle this. There's a Teachings. Not a
Uh,
great draw right now, but it's
honestly,
probably fine later.
I think that means that we probably just have it.
Oh, maybe it
So,
is a great draw. So play a songs.
yeah, you could probably play both songs, The Island, The Petal, and then Reaping.
Sure.
So the songs made 7. Actually, here, let's pause. Let's teachings for songs, but we're not going to cast it.
Okay.
Let's just increase the storm count so we get 1 extra creature.
All right. We'll grab the songs. Then we'll cast Reapings.
Ooh, we can actually do a cool trick here. I'm sorry.
All right.
Hold
Hold
priority,
priority.
cast Songs of the Damned,
All right.
and
And then
then
we'll cast
cast
Reaping.
Reaping. Yep. And now the goal of this is that this Songs of the Damned will make more than 7 mana by the time it resolves.
All right.
So let's target the triple Street Wraith first.
Have I now clicked on everything? That's 6.
The one under the Stinger, I believe.
Okay.
All right. So, yep. Cycle.
All right.
That was a good one.
That's a good one. So now we'll cycle the Street Wraiths in turn. I just do this immediately, right?
I don't like cycling Baron more. Like they just don't
Okay, just
add to
because
your.
it's not a creature, I just wait.
Yeah, it's just not a good use of mana.
All right. Cycle.
Yep.
All right. Eat that. Yes, cycle.
Correct.
Where
There's no Fire Blast in this deck.
and we'll repeat. Repeat.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have to let the next one resolve, right, and just go to 2.
Correct.
All right. Cycle the Street Wraith. There's a Baron more. Do I let more copies of this resolve?
Yeah.
All right. And do I use Island yet?
I wouldn't, because you
Okay.
could still draw like a Dark Ritual or another Songs.
Okay.
Let it go.
And then cycle this.
Cycle. Yep.
Yeah, because we have this Songs of the Dam just kind of waiting, things are better than it looks. All right, so I'll
Yeah,
just
I would let that resolve. Yeah.
and
Because you want
now
to keep your colors
I'll
open.
let my songs resolve for 11 mana.
Yep. So we gained 4 mana out of this. So it was somewhere between a Dark Ritual and a Cabal Ritual.
Nice. So I'll just fire this off, cycle this immediately.
Correct.
Okay,
Ooh.
now we get to do the cute stuff, right?
Correct.
So I'll play Scab and exploit it to itself.
Yep.
And which one do I pick up first?
Honestly, it doesn't matter.
Okay, I'll pick up the Reaping first then.
I would think that before we Reaping, though, I want to cast the Ploy, or
Okay,
even before the songs, just so that way we can gain some life for the street rates, but also potentially hit more creatures.
sure. Do I just want to cast this right now then?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, this will cost me my Lotus Petal. I'll just discard like a swamp here.
Sure.
All right, now I'll exhume the repository scab.
Correct.
All right, there it is. I have multiple reapings in hand, so that means that I want to pick up a songs here.
And I would actually cycle the Barrymores now just to see if we can hit another creature. Well,
There's
that
an
was bananas.
exhume. That's pretty good.
Let's
Uh,
cycle Barrymore. Why not?
all right, there's a stinger. That's very good.
Let's cycle that.
All right, okay.
All right. So we've definitely won at this point. But we can go songs, exhume, songs, reaping, and then just win the game.
All right, exhume. Zoom repository scab. Exploit it, and I just pick up the songs again for more mana, right?
Correct.
All
When I first started playing Repository Scab in my videos, a comment I received a lot is this card really better than our Chaomancer? So what
right.
do you think?
Yeah, this card seems pretty dumb to me. And I'm just going to literally return all of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 cards. And I had a couple more in change. And I just let these all resolve, right? Play my stingers. Or I guess I
Correct.
need to find red mana.
Yep. But it's fine.
I can be good about it. Although I guess I don't necessarily want to play that one out specifically.
To answer your question from earlier, some of the lists aren't even playing that Adoltha Rebirth anymore.
Okay. It seems really good with synthesizer.
I agree.
All right, find me a lotus petal. All right, there's a lotus petal. At which point I think I'll just let this all resolve and do my thing
Uh,
with one of these in play.
yeah, to actually answer the question though, I'm not seeing any Rally the Peasants sort of stuff.
Okay. All right, there's
I
lotus
guess
petal and stinger. Go ahead.
the worst thing that they could have is makeshift munitions.
Okay, yeah. That's a little annoying, but definitely not the end of the world. Um, Now at this point, I'm just looking for more lotus petals to speed things up. There we go. All right, now we're pod racing. We're doing the thing, and this is gonna go just very quickly at this point. Like once you know what you're doing, this deck does not take too long to kill. Like there's a lot of clicks involved, but this is pretty reasonable.
To quote an American hero, gotta go fast. Ricky Bobby.
I see. I'll buy it. All right, opponent's at 6. Oh yeah, I guess I can keep cycling stingers. I just like randomly have ended up with a lot of blue things in hand. All right, I guess I have to cast a reaping. Oh no, there's another stinger.
You have lethal in hand.
Oh yeah, I can also just like do the land cycling. Sure, that works too.
Yeah, secret mode. Land cycling is still land cycling, or still cycling.
All right, opponent was going to have a pretty quick goldfish, but we kind of snuck in there and stole that game, which I'm pretty happy about. All right, what's your plan here? Like, we have some things that can interact with our opponent if we so choose. Like, we can try to become more unfair with like more exhumes. What? How are you approaching this matchup?
So against Boros, before recently, I always boarded in Flaring Pain for Prismatic Strands, but this deck hurt itself by cutting Prismatic Strands, which is why it's so bad against the Relay deck now. So I don't know if people have started to move back towards it. But, like you could board in the Flaring Pain. I do like Mountain and Shredded Sails, just so that way you can beat a Relic if they draw it. And once again, we are boarding out these Striped Riverwinders. It's just that like they're the default card that gets boarded out every round if you're not facing fairies. Um, and then you could probably board out like a Lotus Petal because we're boarding in a land. So we're up a game, so I wouldn't board in the Flaring Pain personally, but you can board it in if you want to. And if you want to, I think we probably take out an Exhume or like a Vantasaur.
Let's run the deck like this. Like, we've got a game 3 if we learn we have to beat Strands, but Strands seems like a card that's bad with Synthesizer, so I can imagine many of these decks drifting away from it.
Yeah, it's also possible to beat Prismatic Strands, by the way, even if you don't board in Flaring Pain. A really nice trick is that you do the repository scob loop that I told you about. And eventually, you pass the turn, and then in their upkeep, you cast two rituals. They respond to one, and then you cast the other, reaping the graves, and then ping them to death.
Okay. Um, this opening hand seems kind of weak to me. Do we mulligan?
I think I would. It's pretty close, but it's just not good enough.
That was my impression. It's like almost there and can get there on some draws, but eh. This hand's awkward looking.
I would agree. I think it's probably better than 5,
Okay.
personally. I would bottom a Dark Ritual and just accept that our deck has 20 plus cyclers in it, and I just need to hit them.
All right. Sounds good. Oh my god, opponent has gone to 4.
Some people just
3.
hard mulligan to Relic. So this is one of those things where if you're patient, you can just beat these draws.
2.
Or mulligan to 2, yeah.
So is like opponent trying to keep a relic or is like just trying to keep like a Kuldotha rebirth or something? Like artifact land called 1 concession. Okay, that's a pretty anticlimactic end to the league. But if our opponent was mulliganing that aggressively, even if they capped on like 4 or 3, like we probably just put a horror or a stinger into play and run away with the game. So like I think we
Exactly.
ended up in the same spot we would have if we played a game. But I would have liked to put the lethal damage on the stack. All
I
right.
hear you.
Bryant, so you've been tweaking on this deck. You've been working with this deck. Do you have any thoughts after kind of getting another league in? Like this deck felt pretty good to me. Very high skill ceiling on it, and there's a lot of little things that you can do right. But what thoughts do you have after playing another league with it?
I really like the core of the deck. The only thing that's running in the back of my mind is should we be playing the green splash for Gnaw to the Bone? Since switching to this pure Grixis build, we are now 1 and 2 versus burn. Maybe you just need to be playing the forest and 2 Gnaw to the Bone, so that way you never lose the burn matchup because it reads like cannot lose. So maybe I need to add those back. I'm not quite sure yet.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining me today. I had a lot of fun playing this deck list, and this was kind of eye opening. I now kind of know a little bit better what to do on the other side of the battlefield. So if people kind of enjoyed your insight today, where can they find you?
The Epic Storm YouTube channel. Just go up in that search bar, type in the Epic Storm, but also at Bryant Cook on Twitter, theepicstorm.com. And Phil, thank you for having me. I really do appreciate it.
It was an absolute blast. And if you enjoy both of us together, we do have a podcast, the Eternal Glory podcast. Consider checking that out as well. All right, folks, if you made it to this point in the video, please consider throwing me a like before you leave. Before you leave, that supports my content for free. And if you have any thoughts, feel free to throw them in the comments. Have a great rest of the day. See ya.